In this section, we will talk about developing priorities for the criteria. Note that when I use the words weights or priorities, I'm talking about the same things. Not all the criteria will have the same importance. Therefore, the second step in the AHP process is to derive the relative priorities for the criteria. They are called relative because the obtained criteria priorities are measured with respect to each other. It is clear that when buying a car, as in other decisions, not all criteria are equally important at a given time. For example, a student may give more importance to the cost factor rather than to comfort or safety, while a parent may give more importance to the safety factor rather than to the others. Clearly, the importance or weight of each criterion will be different, and because of this, we are first required to derive by pairwise comparisons the relative priority of each criterion with respect to each of the others, using a numerical scale for comparison. Pictured here is the scale we will use for this example. To perform the pairwise comparison, you need to create a comparison matrix of the criteria involved in the decision. I'm going to make this one in Excel using the grid with each criteria going across the top and down the left side. Cells in comparison matrices will have a value from the numeric scale that I showed you earlier. This will reflect our relative preference in each of the compared pairs. For example, if we consider that cost is very strongly more important than comfort, the cost-comfort comparison cell, which is the intersection of the cost row and the comfort column, will contain the value of 7. Mathematically, this means that the ratio of importance of cost versus comfort is 7. Because of this, the opposite comparison, the importance of comfort relative to the importance of cost, will yield the reciprocal value of 1/7. Similarly, if we consider that cost is moderately more important than safety, we will enter 3 in the cost safety cell, and the reciprocal 1/3 in the safety cost cell. Finally, if we feel that safety is moderately more important than comfort, the safety comfort cell will contain the value of 3. And the comfort safety cell will contain the reciprocal of 1/3. Note in the comparison matrix that when the importance of a criterion is compared with itself, for example, cost versus cost, comfort versus comfort, or safety versus safety, I'm going to input the value of 1. This corresponds to the intensity of equal importance in the scale. This is intuitively sound because the ratio of importance of a given criteria with respect to the importance of itself will always be equal. The comparison matrix that we've now made shows the pairwise relative priorities for each of the criteria. We now need to calculate the overall priorities or weights of the criteria. There are 2 methods available for this purpose, the exact and the approximate. Since we are doing this calculation by hand, we will use the approximate method in our example due to its simplicity. However, keep in mind that this method provides a valid approximation to the overall weights only when the comparison matrix has a very low inconsistency. We'll talk more about that later. The approximate method requires the normalization of the comparison matrix, which means we add the values in each column using the sum formula in Excel. And then we divide each cell by the total of the column, which I'm going to do over to the side here. From this normalized matrix, we obtain the overall or final priorities by simply calculating the average value of each row, which I can also do using Excel. It is clear that for this example, we give more importance to the cost criterion, followed by safety, and then the comfort factor has minimum weight in our purchasing decision. We can interpret the cost has 66.9 of the overall importance, because that's the number we have here, followed by safety with 24.3%, and comfort with only 8.8%.